Hey guys, we're in the shop today and we're going to talk about swivel knives. Now I've done videos before where we've talked about swivel knives. If you have done any of my online tooling stuff or any of the mini tooling series that we've done here on the YouTube channel, then you've heard me talk about this knife, especially if you've taken a class. We've recently had a class in the shop this week, and it was a beginner's floral tooling class. And so in that class, I really focus on the swivel knife heavily early in the class, just to kind of impress upon them how important this tool is. It is one of the hardest tools in the shop to really get comfortable with and learn how to use efficiently. But if you focus on this tool, this one tool will change your tooling more than any other tool, stamp, maul, any of that kind of stuff. The swivel knife is the main focus. That is the most important tool when it comes to quality floral carving. And so being comfortable with this, figuring out which one you like, what style you like, barrel size, knife size, all of that, that's all very important. And that is the foundation of your tooling. It's the first and the last thing we do in a tooling session is use this knife. And so it's very important. And so I'm just going to go through some of the tools that are the knives that I have. I've gotten a couple new ones in the last year. Just want to kind of talk about those a little bit, and then just kind of show you a couple that I may have never mentioned in any of these videos. So I'm just going to kind of show you those. I'm not an expert on swivel knives. If you want to know more about a particular knife that's in this set, then you need to call the people that made them because they know all the particulars. I'm just going to tell you my impression of them, why I have them, why each one's a little bit different, and what I use them for. Because I don't think you can have enough swivel knives, but one or two is usually plenty to get you by for quite some time. But there are reasons to have other ones or multiple ones with different blades and different sizes on them and stuff like that. So let's get over here and look at these knives, and we're going to go through those right quick. Okay, so here's pretty much my collection of knives. As you can see, I've probably got more than I need as far as swivel knives, but some of these have been come my way, you know, some of them we've bought, and so we've played with a lot of them. I like them all for a particular reason, but I'm just going to kind of go through those real quick. All of your swivel knives will have a barrel, and they'll have your blade, obviously, and then the saddle up here, and all of that is usually adjustable, so you can adjust the height of your saddle there, and then you can get different barrel sizes. You can see all of these are pretty well different sized barrels. Some of them are close to each other, but they're pretty well different sizes. I'm not real picky on brand of knife. I have friends that make swivel knives, and of course I appreciate their craftsmanship and really like their blades and like their knives and for different reasons and things like that. But if somebody's using a Tandy knife, this is just a cheap little Al Stolman swivel knife here. I do have a Berry King beater blade in here. We'll talk about that in a minute. But I don't use this knife every day. I'm using it just for the purpose of running a bead line on something, which I'll show you. But as far as knives go, your barrel size is going to be mainly on your comfort of your hand, or, you know, depending on what you like to use. Some people like a smaller barrel. I've used this Berry King swivel knife here for probably the last decade. It's a smaller barrel. The size here is a 3/8 barrel. It works well for me in my saddle work as well as for wallets and belts and things like that. I've got his slim blade in here, and it is just a 1/4 inch. Just a 1/4 inch slim blade there. And so that works really well for me. I do use a straight blade on the majority of the knives that I work with are going to be the straight blade. One reason is that you get two sides to that. So if one side starts dragging a little bit, I can spin it around, use the other side before I need to strop. But angle blades are needed as well. But this knife here is very good. It's very appropriately priced. I recommend this for a lot of people if they're wanting to step up out of the Tandy knives. Definitely go with the Berry King. It's just a good solid knife that's going to work for many years. You're never going to have any issue with it. I also got right next to it a Henley knife. I've got a couple of these. I've got a bigger one somewhere that I can't currently locate, but it is roughly about the same size barrel there. But in that one, I do have a Berry King blade in there that is an angle blade. Those come in handy when we're doing really tight stuff, really small pattern or a lot of small lettering. It allows you to kind of make those turns a little easier. And here beside it, we've got a leather wrangler knife. Now, I purchased this in Waco this year. Really enjoying this knife. His knives are really nice. The handles are really good. They're real smooth. They're lightweight, super lightweight. It's roughly the same size. It's just a hair smaller, it feels like, than the Berry King 3/8, but I think he does call this a 3/8. But the thing I like about the leather wrangler, you'll notice the thickness of the blade on these two is just a hair different. This one is just a little bit thicker, but it's also a different type of steel. And I have always complimented Paul with Leather Wrangler at all the shows that I've never had to sharpen one of these in my classes. These knives are always sharp. I'm sure they need to be sharpened from time to time, but in my classes, anytime I test somebody's knife, if it's one of these, it's always sharp. So I always compliment him on that, and I'm really enjoying it. It leaves a little bit wider cut with that blade, and I really like that for certain instances. And then I've got this really large here. This is an old hack barth. And I got gifted this knife from a saddle maker that I met, and he gave me a bunch of hack barth tools and things, and just a very, very nice man. But he gave me this knife, and I really, really enjoy using this. I've got this humongous blade. You can see comparison how much bigger that blade is to the Berry King. This blade is very thick. It's a hollow ground. It's very wide. But the nice thing about it is it works great for borders and big, bold patterns, things like that. I really enjoy using this. It gets a little bit hard to see around on small patterns, but it's a lot of fun. The barrel size is a lot bigger as well. This barrel size here is just right at 1/2 inch. So that's a pretty good sized barrel on that. And top of my lineup here is a Pro Series knife that I just received in Wichita Falls from Robert Beard. This is kind of one of my new favorite knives. I really, really, really like using this knife. The blade in it is a little thicker, more along the lines of the Leather Wrangler, just a little bit thicker than that even. A nice solid piece of steel. Don't know what all Mr. Beard does to these, but the saddle on it feels amazing. I've never really worried, honestly, about how smooth that is. I mean, obviously you don't want it bumping around in there and being real hard to spin that knife. But I'll tell you what, with that thing being as smooth as it is, it does make a difference, especially when you got a little arthritis in your hands. It sure is a nice joy to use here. But just a beautiful knife. I like the black. I like the size of the barrel. I like the knurling on it. I just really, really like this knife. I've been running through its paces. Haven't had to sharpen it just yet. Stropping it seems to do the trick, and just hitting it on that strop board. It is a higher price knife, much as the Leather Wrangler knife is going to be, but it's kind of like anything else, guys. When you get into tools on what you're using and why you're using them and how serious you are on kind of what you want to do, is it going to make you that much better of a tooler? That's up to you and the time you put into the tooling. But the tools that we use can really, make your job a lot easier, make your job cleaner. And so I like all of these knives for different reasons. I still use and go back to my Berry King knife here for daily, everyday carving in my classes. I use this during the class this week. I'm having a lot of fun just really finessing my work and knowing that when I pick this knife up, it's going to be sharp, it's going to work good. They're all pretty much like that. Another key element to these knives is going to be being able to sharpen those, and we'll try to do another video later and really get into that. But I want to talk real quick on these. I just wanted to kind of mention all these folks. I'm friends with all these guys, and they all make great knives. Of course, Tandy, I don't know anybody over there, but that knife is just a kind of a starter knife. If that's all you got, I would recommend at least get you a good blade. A lot of these guys will make a blade that will fit a Tandy knife, and if your blade's good, you'll be fine. But when it comes to blades, the width of your blade is going to determine the speed of your blade, in my opinion. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but the wider that blade is, like this blade's very, very wide, that blade is going to move very slowly through the work. So if you're cutting long, straight lines, like in this piece here, we're going to cut this long border line right here, you're going to have a lot easier time keeping that straight with the wider blade like that. Now, should you go out and buy a really wide, fat blade like this one just to do borders? Probably not, but if you have it, it makes it a lot easier. It's the same concept as backing a 40-foot cattle trailer versus backing a boat trailer. That 40-foot trailer is a lot easier to back up straight than a boat trailer is. The narrower it is, the faster they are. So the more little micro movements you make, the quicker it moves out of place. That's going to also be the case with the angle blades. A straight blade is going to be a little bit slower. Even the same size blade is going to be a little bit slower than the angle blade. The angle blade is going to move much quicker, but it's also going to allow you to get out of things way as you're carving, especially really tight patterns, small movements, small tight movements, things like that. The thickness of the blades are going to decide and determine the width within reason of your cut. So if you're needing it, again, on borderlines, I want a nice big wall there that I can inset and frame out that tooling window. I want a nice cut. But when I'm carving decorative cuts, I don't necessarily want big, fat, wide open cuts. I want more elegant, dainty cuts, where these two knives here would come in, especially for that. As well as the thin blade from Barry King. That's kind of just like a quick little rundown. Also on your barrel size, again, the speed is determined by the size of the barrel. Obviously, smaller barrel, quicker you can move that knife versus these bigger barrels. But also for a little bit of comfort, I find, depending on your hand composition and how your hand feels, you might find a narrower one or a wider one more comfortable for you. Height of these knives, as far as where the saddle sits within the barrel, that's going to be determined, again, on your comfort level. I always suggest people in my classes, loosen that screw. They all have a set screw up here by the saddle for that top shaft. Move it around. Try it high, try it low, try it in the middle, move it around till you find the spot that feels most comfortable for your hand, to where you're not getting a lot of excessive hand strain. You're going to spend a lot of time with this knife in your hand, so you don't want to get too crazy and just suffer through it and leave it where it is because you think that's what somebody told you to keep it at. Play around with it, adjust it, keep adjusting it till you find that little spot there. And not every knife will be adjusted to the same height. Depends on what you're doing with them. Another thing I want to talk about in blades is going to be these ceramic blades. I never was one to really use ceramic blades. I never had one. And then I received a couple from a buddy of mine that had bought out a bunch of tools and stuff, and there was a whole mess of these in there. And I've played with them a little bit. I had somebody in a class this year, and their ceramic blade was super sharp. And the ones I've been around in classes before didn't really give me an appealing cut that I liked. And so I wasn't a big fan of them, but they're nice because you don't have to sharpen them supposedly and this and that. But again, try them. You want to try them, give them a shot, see what you think. I'm not against them. As long as the cut looks good, that's what I'm after. And if you've been with me in my classes, you know how kind of finicky I get about the cuts. I want that knife to be cutting well. But anyway, that's just a touch on those. There's a lot of options out there for the little ceramics, as far as I know. So yeah, get a couple. I think they're fairly cheap. Give them a shot. I want to talk a little bit about a couple specialty blades and knives. So again, this is the Al Stolman Tandy knife. I don't even know where it came from. It's been in my shop forever. But it's just a simple little knife, real cheap. But I did put a Barry King beater blade in there, and it needs an overhaul, but it works for what we're doing. But what this blade does, if you can kind of see in here, you can kind of see on there, it's got two cutting edges on it. So it's basically got a notch running down the middle of it there. And what that does is it allows you to cut two lines at one time at a certain width, okay? And that's going to make a bead, or what we call a bead, which is going to be something like this here. So I need a line on the inside for this border stamp, and then I need a line on the outside so I can put these shells. And so this particular piece doesn't have it the way it should be, but it should also have this bead on the outside here too, so that I could put these shells on the outside. But this is just kind of a trial run piece we're doing in class. But what we'd call that is, if you've ever heard somebody say, a double bead border. A double bead border would be that you have a bead here, a bead here. So you'll have a running border running down the middle, whether that's a serpentine, even a basket stamp sometimes, and then you've got shells on both sides, or shell border on both sides. But that's the purpose of the bead border. And that beater blade is really handy. You can do this line with a single blade, and you can set your distance and carve one line, and then set your wing dividers to whatever width you want your bead, and then carve it. But you have to carve it. You got to be real careful to keep those straight. These make that a lot easier. So if you're looking for something to make that easier, be sure and check out Barry King on his beater blades. I do have one for my Henleys. I don't know. It might be in my swivel knife box, but I have one from them. It's very large and it's hard to see around. But I bought that thing probably 15 years ago, and so I'm sure they've probably modified theirs since then. But very good blade though. But Barry's are really good, and it does a really good job. The other one I want to talk about here is this knife. I see this a lot in our classes, and this is from Dwayne Watts, and it is a really cool little knife. You'll notice here that the top saddle does not turn. It's stationary. It's solid in there, but the swivel blade turns, okay? It's kind of a new concept, kind of Dwayne's idea, different concept, and it's supposed to make it easier for you or for those that want to use it more like a pencil, is what has been explained to me. And so you can set your blade and you just follow your line. You don't have to move your fingers. You don't have to do anything. You just almost just like a pencil. You just draw with it is all you do. I have a hard time using this because I'm old school. It was taught with a normal swivel knife, and so I want to grab the blade, because when I'm carving with another blade, I will usually use this bottom finger to kind of help manipulate sometimes where I want that blade to go. And with this one, I end up kind of getting in the way of the blade, but it's just going to take some practice. But I see the reason for this, and I've been playing with it on some pictorial work and on some different things, because it does have a little bit different application where I can see where this knife is going to be real handy. The other thing that I got kind of enlightened on by a student was that you can take this end and put it on this end and put the blade on this end and lock the blade down. Now the saddle turns and it's a normal swivel knife. I like that option. So I encourage you to go to Dwayne's booth if you're at a show and try one of these knives. If you, particularly, I think from my experience in classes, if you've got some arthritis issues, or maybe I think I had one young lady that had broke a finger or a thumb or something, and the traditional swivel knife was just, man, it just wouldn't work quite as well, or she had a lot of pain and she just couldn't get it to work. But this, she claimed, really helped her, and she carved beautifully. So like I tell them all the time in class, I don't care what you decide to use, as long as you're making the same progress and we're accomplishing the same goal. That's the main thing, okay? And so you use what you're most comfortable with. And so if you do have maybe some hand issues, you mentioned some arthritis, carpal tunnel, broke a finger, something like that, these knives are a good option to, go sit down with him, visit. He's an awesome guy to visit with, but visit with him, talk to him about that knife, try one out, see what you think. One thing I would suggest, if you've got a couple swivel knives, or even if you just got one or whatever, this is just an old saddle soap can here. You can get anything, a little Tupperware, whatever, but get one of these, get something, and keep all of your extra blades. I would also always suggest to have some extra blades on hand, because I have dropped one of these knives. I can guarantee you probably won't break the blade off on a Robert Beard tool, but I've had one of these knives where I've dropped it at Christmas time on the concrete and it snapped the blade off. So always keep you a couple spares, just in case. We're in Christmas season. Even an old blade, you can see there's one in there that's real short. It'll work better than nothing if you lose one, break one, chip one, something like that. But then I just keep in here various little bitty screwdrivers, and then, parts. There's that. I've got just some Allen wrenches in there, things like that. This is also something else with that Dwayne Watts tool. He comes with this little guy here if you don't want the saddle on there, and then you can use it just like a pencil. Just kind of something kind of neat. But I suggest getting some type of little can, little Tupperware. Keep those Allen wrenches, keep that stuff in there. That way you know where they are, because all of these knives, some of them are Allen wrenches, some of them are flathead screwdrivers, some of them are Phillips. Some of them are specialized tools. So just be sure you've got the tool so that you can adjust these things whenever you need to. But I really like all these knives. Can't have enough of them, but those are just wanted to give you kind of a rundown on what I've got. Two of the new ones that I've gotten this year, what I like about them. Man, I'm still working through the paces on them, but there's nothing on them that I don't like. They're just really good knives. And so, you can talk to all these guys when you go to a show. You can go up to their booth, visit with Mr. Beard, visit with Paul, visit with Barry, visit with Mr. Watts. You can walk up to their booth. They have got leather out there. You can try them. You can play with them, feel them. Visit with them about their process, and heck, I imagine they'll sharpen them for you too. If you ever get to a point where you kind of get your blade where you don't like it and you can't get it back, they're just really, really nice guys that do a good job. So these are the knives that I've got. I really enjoy them. I appreciate you guys watching. Be sure to go to dgsaddlery.com, sign up for the Leathercraft newsletter, and we'll see you guys in the next video.